and welcome to the Blindfold Chess Podcast.
This week, we are looking at the president of the Chinese Chess Federation, someone who played Chinese chess before pivoting to Western chess at the age of 10, a women's world champion, the first Asian woman to earn the Grandmaster title, and someone who has influenced millions of people to start playing the game, Xie Jun. Our story begins in China in 1970 when Xie Jun was born. This was right in the middle of the Cultural Revolution of China, where Western chess was banned from 1966 to 1976. When Jun was 6 years old, she started to play Chinese chess, or zhongqi. Zhongqi is a strategic game, but it's quite a bit different from standard chess, including different piece types, a different board layout, a different board size. The pieces are at the intersection of the squares rather than inside of the squares, and the board features a river that runs down the middle of the board. 4 years later, at the age of 10, she became the girls' zhongqi champion of Beijing. Shortly after that, by the urging of the Chinese government, with some articles even going so far as saying, quote, by passing of a secret decree to devote substantial efforts to prepare her for Western chess, end quote, she learned the rules of Western chess and began competing in international chess tournaments. In 1984, at the age of 14, she became the Chinese girls' chess champion. The following year, she and 2 others from China were invited to the USSR. 1988 was a busy year for the 18-year-old. She won the Asian Junior Girls Championship, and she tied for second at the World Junior Girls Championship. That was the highest placement of an Asian player in the history of the tournament. 2 years later, she qualified for the 1990 Women's Interzonal Tournament in Malaysia. She finished in second in that event, right behind former women's world champion Nona Gabrindashvili. Placing in second qualified Jun for the 1990 Candidates Tournament in Georgia. It was a 7-round round-robin tournament where Jun tied with the other 20-year-old Alyssa Merrick. Jun won the playoff to advance to the World Championship match the following year. Awaiting her was the current women's world champion and who had held the title for the past 13 years, Maya Chiburdandase. Jun struck first, winning Game 3. Maya won Games 4 and 5. Jun tied it up in Game 8. Then Jun pulled away, winning Games 11 and 13. The match concluded after a draw on Game 15, securing 8.5 points for Xie Jun, enough to become the 8th women's world champion. This was monumental. Not only was the reigning 13-year women's world champion dethroned, but Xie Jun became the first non-Soviet woman to win the Women's World Chess Championship since the creation of the title 65 years ago, and only 15 years after the game had been unbanned in her home country. In an interview with ChessBase, she said at the time of earning her world championship title, she wasn't playing full-time, she was balancing her chess life with her university studies. She was given the opportunity to defend her title in 1993 when Nana Iosliana controversially emerged as the candidate's winner. Nana and Susan Polgar had tied at the end of the candidates tournament, then they tied in the first round of tiebreaks, then they tied in the second round of tiebreaks, so FIDE decided that the winner of the candidates tournament would be decided by a lottery that Nana won. In 1993, this world championship was called anticlimactic as Xie Jun demolished her opponent 8.5 to 2.5, only needing 2 games above the minimum to retain her title. This wasn't all, though. In doing so, Xie Jun earned her Grandmaster title, becoming the first Asian woman to do so, the second in her country's history to do so, and the 6th woman in the history of the game to earn the title. Winning the World Championship the first time helped create some buzz about chess in China, but chess really exploded after Jun defended her title and earned the Grandmaster designation. Reports say that interest in chess rose by an estimated 1 million people in China. In 1996, she also had to defend her title against Susan Polgar. Jun struck first, winning Game 1, but soon lost control of the match, with Polgar winning 5 of the next 10 games, with the match concluding on Game 13, with Polgar defeating Xie Jun 8.5 to 4.5, ending Jun's 5-year reign as the women's world champion. But Jun was not done. The next year, she was back in the candidates tournament, where the winner of a match between herself and first place would determine who would play in the World Championship against Susan Polgar. However, in 1998, Polgar requested a postponement as she was about to have her baby. FIDE accepted the postponement, but due to that, they needed a new sponsor, one that was in China. The match was rescheduled to 1999, but Polgar refused to play since the entire tournament would take place in her opponent's home country. FIDE ruled that Polgar would forfeit her title, and a new match would be scheduled between the number 1 and number 2 players of the candidates tournament, and thus the World Championship of 1999 between Alyssa Galiamova and Xie Jun was underway. This was a back-and-forth match with each player winning 2 through the first 8 games. Jun got ahead in Game 9 and added to her lead in Game 11 before winning the match by 2 points, 8.5 to 6.5, after 15 games to reclaim her title as the women's world champion. FIDE changed the format of the World Championship the following year into a 64-player knockout tournament. Jun received no special treatment for being the current champion. She was thrown into the bracket with everybody else, but she won her way through, defeating the 16th seed, 30th seed, 12th seed, and 11th seed to meet her fellow countrymen in the finals, Guin Kangyang, the 9th seed. Jun won the first game, then drew the other 3 to win 2.5 to 1.5 to re-earn her title. In that same year of 2000, Jun played Anatoly Karpov in a, quote, female versus male chess contest, end quote. The two competitors played 4 games at standard time control, where Karpov won 2.5 to 1.5, and 2 rapid games where Karpov won 1.5 to half. The next year at the Women's World Championship, Jun decided to put her career on hold and opted not to play in the knockout tournament, allowing her countrywoman Zhu Shen to claim the title after winning her way through the bracket. After winning 4 world championships, Jun turned her attention to raising her child. In 2004, she was awarded the title of International Arbiter and a FIDE Senior Trainer title. 2004 was also where she won her final gold medal with the Chinese Olympiad team, having also won it with them in 1998 and 2000. Jun helped lay the groundwork for Chinese women to dominate the world of chess. Chinese women have won 9 of the last 14 Women's World Championships, spread amongst 6 women possessing the title for 22 of the last 34 years. She is currently tied with Hou Yifan with 4 World Championship titles each, and in 2019 she was inducted into the World Chess Hall of Fame, and she was appointed the new president of the Chinese Chess Association, a position that she still holds today with a membership that is constantly growing. And that is where we are at today. She is still a major influence in the chess world. She left the competitive chess scene as a world champion. She learned a different strategy game growing up, pivoted to chess, won the title, lost the title, won it again, then FIDE changed the format and she won it again, and now she is a leader of one of the fastest growing chess organizations on the planet. Quite a remarkable career. In an interview with ChessBase, she said, quote, "Chess was, is, will always be one of my favorite things in life. I always feel happy to connect with chess when I have the time." End quote. For today's game, we are going back to the Linares Annibal Open of 1997. Xie Jun versus Jan Eslon. Now, if we're ready, let's begin.
1. Pawn to e4. Pawn to e5. Two, knight f3. Knight c6. Three, bishop b5. Knight f6.
After knight to f6, black has entered what is called the Berlin defense, an opening that's been around for almost 200 years. It is a line that is known to be super solid for black, sometimes known as the Berlin Wall. The opening gained a new life after Vladimir Kramnik drew 4 games with it against Garry Kasparov in the World Championship of 2000. It is a super deep and super theoretical opening that is very popular.
Four, castle kingside. Knight captures e4. Five, pawn to d4. Knight d6. Six, bishop captures c6. Pawn d captures c6. Seven, pawn d captures e5. Knight e4. Eight, queen e2.
Why do you think Jun played queen to e2 in this position, rather than playing queen captures on d8 check and getting the queens off the board? There's nothing wrong with capturing the queen. It depends on how you want to play the resulting position. With the queens off the board, the position becomes much more drawish as there's no real threats, but keeping the queens on the board allows for a lot more tension in the game.
Bishop f5. Nine, bishop e3. Queen c8. Ten, knight d4. Bishop c5. Eleven, pawn to f3. Bishop captures d4. Twelve, bishop captures d4.
Jun had the choice to capture the bishop that was on d4 or to capture the knight that was on e4. Why do you think she chose to capture the bishop over the knight? If white were to have played pawn captures on e4, black would play bishop captures on e3 check, white would play queen captures on e3, and black would retreat their light squared bishop that is on f5 to the g6 square, solidifying their position. As a result of this, material is equal, but white has two isolated e-pawns in the middle of the board, and in a semi-open type of position, black has the bishop versus white's knight. So both of those two small elements build a little bit of an advantage for black.
Knight g5. Knight c3. Knight e6. Pawn to g4.
This is a quirky game. That might be a good word for it. By all accounts, the move pawn to g4 is a bad move. Yes, it attacks the bishop that is on f5 to counterattack black's knight attacking white's bishop. But if black were to capture the bishop that is on d4, white is just down a piece for nothing. I wanted to include this game due to the combination at the end. I thought there might be an error in the game's notation, but I checked on chess games and Elite Chess and 365 Chess, and all of them have the same notation, so we'll roll with it. So if you see a hanging bishop in this game, we'll assume that is the real position.
Bishop g6. Pawn to f4. Pawn to f5. Pawn e captures f6. Castle kingside. Pawn to f5. Rook e8.
Why did black play rook to e8 instead of capturing the bishop that is on d4? Capturing the bishop on d4 still leaves white in a solid position after a move like queen to c4 check. Black doesn't have a clean way to recapture, so then white can just play queen captures on d4, the following move.
Pawn f captures g6. Pawn g captures f6. Pawn g captures h7 check. King g7. Queen f2. King captures h7. Bishop e3. Knight G7. 22. Queen F4. Rook E5. 23. Knight E4. Queen E6. 24. Knight captures F6 check. Black resigns.
Why did Black resign in this position? While there isn't a direct mate, White has overwhelming control of the position. Over the next couple of moves, they are going to try to flush the Black king out to the middle of the board, and in the process, they will pick up more material. So for example, for a move like king to g6, White can play queen to h6 check. The Black king will run away to f7. White can play knight to h5 as a discovered check. The king will move from f7 to e7. And then White can play queen captures on g7 check. And the Black king is still on the run. White just got a piece, and White still has the momentum. A world champion, a grandmaster, a role model in her own home country and across the world, Xie Jun is still impacting millions with her influence on the chess world. She has grown chess to the point that the Chinese Chess Federation actually exists and is not a shadow under the game of zhongqi, and pioneered a road of Chinese world champions that have dominated the game for the better part of 3 decades. So that is all that we have for this week. Tune in next time where we will continue to work on our blindfold skills and look at another game of the Masters.